It's nice having a first look and an exclusive preview of everything here. We're very excited to bring it into the game. Hey everyone, welcome to another SCS On The Road episode. Today we are here in Madras, Oregon, in the Daimler Trucks North America High Desert Proving Grounds. And behind me we have a 5th generation Cascadia. And today with me we have Tim Norton. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Yes, hi, my name's Tim Norton. I work in Freightliner marketing, mainly do powertrain and connectivity things, and here today I've been working on launching this 5th generation Cascadia, which we have right here in front of us. We're really impressed with this new truck and can't wait to get it out on the road.
Yeah, this is, I guess, everyone's first look at this truck, so it's really impressive. We're seeing an evolution of the design of the Cascadia that everyone is quite familiar with. Perhaps we can talk about a little bit more, how did the Cascadia come to be? Like, when was the 1st generation released?
Sure, definitely. The 1st generation came out in 2007, so it's hard to believe it's been that long, but our what we call the 1st generation Cascadia launched then, and you started seeing them on the road in 2008. Over time, we updated it. What we call the 2nd generation Cascadia was actually the Cascadia Evolution, which added more aerodynamics. The Detroit DT12 transmission was part of that, and then we introduced Detroit Assurance a little bit later as well. So that Cascadia really kind of upped the game of fuel efficiency, safety, and driver comfort. Then the 3rd generation Cascadia was our big redesign. If you're out on the road and you see Cascadia today, you'll probably see the 3rd and 4th generation where we really had a styling change. So the Cascadia had a little bit sharper edges, a little more swept back aerodynamics, and further improved those aerodynamics, of course, for fuel efficiency, and really made it even more sleek and introduced a lot of new technology there as well.
Yeah, so the 3rd and 4th generation is probably what everyone is familiar with in American Truck Simulator, because we've had it for a while there. We've also brought in the newer parts, the lower, what do you call that? This splitter.
Yep, we have the lower front aerodynamic piece right here, which is lower to the ground, but has really been tested for durability. We know there's always something out on the road that a truck might hit, so that's really been tested kind of in forward and reverse, but really helps redirect that air underneath the truck. That's an area where you have a lot of turbulence and really affects aerodynamics, so the more air we can push around the underneath of the truck and kind of under in that way, the better.
Yeah, so I think with the Generation 4, we've already seen that, but I guess with this new fascia and the new design, it's even further refined, right? Can you maybe talk me through the differences on this 5th generation version?
Sure, definitely. So yeah, you pointed out the lower air dam there. We've also sealed off this gap. So we had a slight, about a 1-inch gap between the bumper and the hood. We've actually fully sealed that so that air is not getting into there and again, causing turbulence and affecting aerodynamics. So that was a big area of concentration. We also have a new grille, which you can see here. This is our black grille. So really stands out nice with this gray paint job, and really kind of redesigned the shape of that grille so it allows more air to pass through to the radiator. You're getting a lot better cooling there and also better aerodynamics. And then if we had there's a grille that has some chrome inserts as well, kind of a matte chrome color that goes in here. So if you've got maybe a different color, right here. And then, if you had that grille, it would really kind of stand out from there. Also, while we're here, let's move around this side a little bit. While we're talking about aerodynamics, I'd like to point out the wheel well as well. So if you think about it, when the truck is going down the road, the wheel creates a lot of aerodynamic drag. There's a big kind of bubble of dirty air right here when we're going down the road. So we added these closeouts that really seal, 3-piece closeout that really fully seals in that wheel well area. So when air comes around the front of the truck, it just shoots right by the front wheels. But when we do that, it can get hot in that area if we're not getting enough airflow. So we design these air intakes into the front of the bumper that still direct just enough air into the wheel well to keep it cool, while still allowing most of the air that we don't want to go around the side of the wheel well.
Right. So this is actually functional then.
Yes. Yep.
That's pretty
passes
good.
through into the wheel well.
Yeah.
So yeah, aerodynamics were really our big focus with the 5th generation Cascadia.
Yeah. I see that even the headlights have been kind of streamlined. It's not just for design, right? There's always an aerodynamic like principle behind it.
You can see the new headlights, thanks for pointing those out, are really swept back. They still look good too, but they're both functional and form on there. So we have a nice swept back design on the headlights. You can see we have a heating element in here as well. So we have a intelligent heating system for the headlight. It can actually melt about 3 millimeters of ice within about 10 minutes. So if you've got ice caked up on there on a cold morning, it'll just melt that right off. Also, if it's humid and you get some condensation within the lens, the heating element can even dissipate some of that humidity. So the lights work better in those scenarios as well.
I guess cars can benefit from that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And what is this black additional part below the headlamp?
Yeah, so this is part of probably one of the biggest new things for the 5th generation Cascadia is Detroit Assurance. So we're moving to our 6th generation of Assurance as well. So this is actually a cover for a radar unit. We now have 5 radar units going around the outside of the vehicle. We have 2 now on either side. With the previous Assurance, we could have this radar on the passenger side. Now we have a side radar on the passenger and driver side. Okay. So we're seeing the whole sides of the truck. And then we have one of these on either side under the headlight. So we're seeing the front corners. And then we still have our primary radar, which is a newer enhanced unit than we had before, located right there in the grille, kind of where it's always been. And then of course, we also use our camera array up in the windshield as well.
Right, that's a very secure suite of safety systems, I would say. Can you share, like, what is the improvement in terms of fuel efficiency just from the redesign of the front in terms of like percentage? Do you know?
First of all, going back to the original Cascadia, we've actually improved fuel efficiency by 35%. In large part due to aerodynamics over the course of all those generations. So it's really improved quite a bit over time.
What do you think makes the Cascadia in general so popular? Because we've mentioned that it is the best-selling truck in the US, right? What do you think are the core values that this truck exposes?
Well, the name of the game for these trucks is really fuel efficiency, driver comfort, and safety. So those 3 things are really important to all of our customers. We want to make sure that that our truck uses as little fuel as possible, but still able to get the job done. So we've got a lot of different power ratings and different powertrain configurations based on what our customers are doing, but paired with the aerodynamics, the fuel efficiency of the Detroit engines and the Detroit transmission, they really make sure that drivers can get the job done, get the freight where it needs to go, while saving fuel while doing that. Right, that makes sense, right? You want a truck with the lowest total cost of ownership, ultimately. Yes, definitely.
Maybe we can walk around the truck a little bit and look at the design in general. I see that probably one of the newer features are the camera mirrors, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, glad you noticed that. Yep, so we have the mirror cam system available on the 5th generation Cascadia. You can see, it's a smaller aerodynamic design, but gives a lot of coverage surrounding the vehicle as far as sight lines to where we can actually, pick up on those things and display them in the cab on monitors, which we'll see in a little bit. So that mirror cam system, again, has several different cameras on it. There's one pointing directly down below. There's one kind of aiming out this way where you would have kind of a blind spot, and then there's one looking to the rear that can see all the way down to the back of the trailer. So those cameras really provide a full kind of panoramic view of the sides of the truck. Also, those cameras have kind of an infrared sensor and are able to kind of give a night vision type of look.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then they also have a coating on them, so if it's raining and you're getting maybe dirty dirty rain washing over those lenses, they're not going to get dirty. They have a hydrophobic coating, so it kind of, the water stays off. So if you're driving at night in the rain, where normally even with regular mirrors, you would have a hard time seeing, this really appears a lot better in the monitors than it would on the actual mirror.
So there's like exposure adjustment and compensation and stuff like that to make it more visible, I guess. Can you use the mirrors from the bunk, like as a safety feature where you can turn it on and see around your truck?
You would have the cameras that look straight down, what would be a drop mirror, kind of looking down, and would be able to see if anyone's coming up near the door or anything.
Cool. Do you offer other chassis types as well?
We do. So we have the 6x4 axle that you'll see mostly. We also do a 4x2, so we can do a single axle as well. And then we do offer 6x2 as well. So it'll look like a tandem axle, but only one of the axles will be driven.
Okay.
So that saves on fuel quite a bit. It saves a lot of weight in the rear axle, and some customers really like to use that for to increase their fuel efficiency wherever possible.
Right. And when it's a 6x2, is this the forward axle driven or the rear one?
The forward is driven, and the rear is a tag axle. So Got Yep, these drive wheel fairings, flow below fairings, look really great, and kind of like the front wheel that we just talked about, really keep air out of that, the tire area. There's a lot of turbulence when the truck is moving and the tires are going. It's hard to block off that area and keep air out of there, so we have these fairings kind of covering up that. And then we have these wheel fairings as well, which are really cool. They close off that area, again, very turbulent.
Yeah, the wheel covers,
Yep, and they're very easy to remove. You just twist them like that, pull them right off, and then you have access to the wheel. So very handy, yep.
Well, thanks for talking us through the exterior of the truck. Perhaps we'll now jump inside and talk more about the improvements to driver comfort and the features.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's go in. Okay, so now we're in the interior of the Cascadia. Can you tell us more about this sleeper in general? Is it a 60-inch or 72-inch?
Yes, this is our 72-inch sleeper, so this is our biggest sleeper.
Your flagship.
And it's a raised roof, so plenty of room back there. And it comes in lots of different configurations between the cabinets and bunks. We can do upper and lower bunks. And then this one has a kind of a driver's lounge. It actually has a table and a couple chairs that fold down, and then the bunk lays on top of that.
Right, that's really nice. I think a lot of drivers definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. It gives them some space to work and spread out. Yep. Okay,
and can you maybe tell me more about what's new about this interior? Of course, the screens, they were there in the 4th generation, right? But maybe we can still, talk about the benefits of having these screens and the kind of information that you can get from here.
Yeah, definitely. These were an option on the 4th generation Cascadia. You see we have them here on this truck. And yeah, it really brings a modern look and feel to the interior. The overall layout of the dash, drivers were really happy with, so we didn't want to change that too much, but we did want to kind of bring it into the, the modern age with touch screens and a lot of different options for seeing different things. And then here on this main display, you have things like phone connectivity, navigation, lighting. Really just gives a lot of options to access those things easily without adding a bunch of switches.
Right, and I see that there are also like physical shortcuts here, so you can quickly get to what you need, like volume controls.
Yep.
Obviously it's also on the wheel. And I believe that the touchpad on the left controls this panel, right?
Yes.
And then this on the right controls what you call the B panel.
Yep. So this is a new special steering wheel that we use when we have this digital dash display. And you have the 2 touchpads that control either side, left on left and right on the B panel. And in the main panel as well, you can switch between different options and different gauges and things like that as well. So there's tons of information at your fingertips, lots of different things you can access and see while you're driving, and be able to keep track of all that.
Yeah, that's really nice. And like, there's still physical buttons, of course, right?
Mhm.
And we were talking about the main change here is the parking brake buttons.
Yes, yep. The old ketchup and mustard buttons.
Ah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
Okay,
yep.
now that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. So those used to be physical big knobs, big physical switches.
Yeah.
The problem with that is we had to run, they're air controlled, so we had to run air lines into the dash.
Right.
And anyone that's used those knows, when you push or pull those buttons, it makes a kind of a loud air noise in the cab. And having airlines, running into the dash, that's just another airline that can leak. So what we've done is actually an electric over air parking brake system, where these are electric switches, and they send a signal to an air controller, which then controls the brakes on the chassis. So instead of running an airline all the way up into here just to control that, we just do it electronically and run that signal outside. And it works great. And then one of the big advantages of that also, if someone forgets to engage the parking brake and they open the door,
Right.
It'll actually engage the parking brake automatically. So you won't have a risk of the truck rolling away or anything like that.
So it's also a safety feature, not
Yep.
just for ease of maintenance, but also to prevent it from rolling away. Do these function as such that when you put it into drive and accelerate, it disconnects it automatically?
Won't do that automatically. We still want drivers to physically engage and disengage
Right.
whenever they can, just so the driver knows the status of the parking brake and is remembering to do that. But if they do forget, we have kind of that backup, that safety net, just in case. We know if they don't set it and open the door, then maybe they forgot to set it, and then we can intervene there. But yeah, we do. Our drivers really want to be able to control the brake and set it when they need it. So yep, it's easy, and you just pull it like that or push it to engage and disengage.
Okay. And I see it's telling me that I have to use the actual brakes
Oh yeah,
before I can release that.
Yep.
Which makes sense.
yeah.
And looking around the interior, of course, I'm noticing that there are multiple displays now.
Yeah, that's a big one. So when we were outside, we talked about the mirror cam and everything it can see and the full coverage that it gives. You can really see that in the displays here.
Yeah.
On the top there is kind of that long view where you see the whole length of the truck, and then that red line that you see there, which is adjustable, you can adjust the mirror cam on the door.
Okay.
Right there, and that line is where the rear of the trailer is. So it'll detect where the rear of that trailer is, and the line will show up where that is. So if you think about backing into a dock or maneuvering that trailer, reversing, really helps to know where the end of that 53 feet is, so you're not running into a dock. So that's very helpful for maneuvering a trailer.
Yeah, and you were also mentioning that there's the infrared thing, which we can kind of see here as well, right? Because of this green tint on it. It's not super bright outside, so I guess it's doing some kind of processing to help improve the visibility.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we're in this garage here, so it's a little shaded, but you can see that little bit of green. That's that kind of infrared layer over the footage that gives you that night.
Right. And I like the placement of this. It's kind of novel. I've never seen it done like here before. Usually it's some additional display on the passenger side, a pillar, but that makes sense, right? That's where you would expect on a regular car to have the rear mirror, but you don't have to look over.
You don't have to look all the way over
to the
here
passenger's door. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's really handy. And then we have you can see the back of the camera unit here too. That's actually a shorter camera unit than we had on the fourth generation Cascadia. It used to come down a little bit more, but we know that windshield space is key when you're driving.
Yeah, any visibility helps, right? You don't want that letterbox effect if you can avoid that.
Exactly.
Maybe you can talk more about what's Detroit Assurance 6.0. I guess that's what you're gonna call it.
Yep. Assurance with ABA 6. So
ABA 6.
active brake assist being the main, emergency emergency braking system, and it's now the 6th generation. So it's really evolved over time, kind of with the Cascadia.
Okay. And what kind of other features do you get with the whole Detroit Assurance package?
Quite a bit. So the additions of the radar surrounding the front of the truck is really what's given us kind of the most. Since we can see all that, we can do things like front guard alert is a big one. Mm-hmm. If there's maybe a person or an object in front of the truck when the truck's ready to take off, it'll give a warning in the dash, hey, don't pull out yet. There's something in front of the truck, even if it's lower than the slope of the hood. So that'll give a little warning. We'd also do a lot with kind of lateral movement when driving. Okay. So side guard assist, what we call active side guard assist. Mm-hmm. If the driver turns, especially to the right or now even the left, since we cover the whole front end, tries to turn and there's something in the way, we have a motorized steering gear that'll kind of move the steering back to center.
Okay. And there's also, I believe you mentioned, there's also active lane assist. So it kind of lines it up to the center of the lane as well, right?
Yep. So active lane assist, it's kind of the same thing, but when you're up to highway speed, we use that steering gear, which can kind of correct the steering to stay in the center of the lane, which is, definitely a safety feature. It's also just really nice and comfortable. If you're driving long distances and maybe it's kind of a curvy road, we're constantly giving a little bit of steering input that's, just makes it a lot easier to drive, especially in crosswinds and things like that. If you're driving through a windy area, like here in Madras, for example.
Yeah, we've had a lot of that driving here, over the bridges and stuff. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess those are the main key features that were, improved with the latest generation, 5th generation Cascadia. So
yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's nice having a first look and an exclusive preview of everything here. We're very excited to bring it into the game. I guess when our viewers see this video, the truck will already be out in the game. So anyway, thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time off to come here to Madras and show us around the truck. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Oscar.
Thank you. And we hope everyone will enjoy driving this truck in American Truck Simulator. And that's the end of the video. See you next time.